Hey, it's Mike here, and today a vegan diet is BS, according to a self-proclaimed anti-vegan and TikToker, PrimalPhysique. Here he is.
Here's why the vegan diet is BS.
I wish I could just film on the ocean instead of surrounded by cornfields in Iowa. Anyway, he covers a ton of claims in the short little TikTok, everything from various nutrients he says you can't get on a vegan diet. He also talks about all of these toxins and chemicals in plant foods, and he also says that all these vegans are quitting because their body just gives out on them. He doesn't cite any science, but we certainly are going to, so let's just get into it. And real quick, shout out to my good friend Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan, who responded to this really recently. I'm not gonna watch his video until after I record this, so I have, independent thoughts, but I'm definitely gonna watch it afterwards, and you should absolutely check out his channel as well. Love them. But yeah, every once in a while, I just wanna put my ear to the ground and listen to what people are saying on TikTok and respond to a TikToker directly. And in this case, he starts out with these nutrients that you can't get on a vegan diet.
1. There are many nutrients like vitamin B12, zinc, creatine, and iodine that you cannot get from a vegan diet.
So he rattled off quite a few nutrients there. He did 4, and we can start off with B12. And I will say maybe there's a little bit of truth to this concern, but the actual claim itself is just wildly inaccurate on multiple levels. First of all, we can just zoom out and realize that B12 comes from bacteria, whether it's in an animal, literally like eating rotting dead animal flesh where some of that B12 comes from, or whether it is from a supplement or even various plant foods, as we've realized now. But he said on a vegan diet, not from plants specifically. And yeah, it's just the case that anything you can put in your mouth on a vegan diet under that umbrella would be okay. So if it's a supplement that comes from bacteria, that's totally fine on a vegan diet. And obviously you can get totally bioavailable B12, and that's why we're seeing more and more trends of vegans even having slightly higher B12 than meat eaters, like this study from Germany found. But I do think fortified foods and supplements are the way to go just in terms of reliability, and that's why vegans are getting to that good point. But it is just the case from a factual perspective that there are now a variety of plants that are known to have B12 in varying degrees depending on the processing. Probably the most reliable one would be duckweed. I've done a whole video on that, and I've done a whole video on B12 in plant foods, whether we're talking about traditional Korean fermented foods or sea buckthorn, random drinks from the Middle East, and on and on. But no, vegans in a vegan diet easily can get B12. Let's move on to the next nutrient. The next nutrient is zinc. This is one where I just don't understand how you can make such wildly incorrect claims and even just leave a video up. Like if I made a claim like this, I'd have to take the video down because it's so obvious that plant foods straight up have zinc. You can type various plant foods into any nutrition tracker yourself. Some are particularly good, like pumpkin seeds to the American Heart Association. A serving of seeds contains 6.6 milligrams of zinc, which accounts for almost half the recommended daily zinc. What's up? I'm Lil Pump. I'm a pumpkin seed. I'm a pumpkin seed. Got all the zinc that you need. Got 6.6 exactly. Fact check your videos, please. Don't tell Lil Pump, but I don't think he's gonna make it in the rap industry. All right, next. The next nutrient after that is creatine. So if you're talking about literally getting it from food on a vegan diet, sure, but our body creates creatine, and we can see, studies like this one. Looking at people who don't get dietary creatine, which is vegetarians, in the same boat as vegan, their brain levels are the same. And I have a whole video on this going into what could be optimal performance, what the studies show for vegans or vegetarians given creatine. But yeah, not that different than being we can't get eyeballs on a vegan diet. Yeah, we make our own eyeballs. Anyway, on to the next one.
Zinc, creatine, and iodine that you cannot get from a vegan diet.
Yeah, so once again, he just makes a blatant claim for iodine in this case, that it doesn't exist on a vegan diet when it clearly freaking does. I mean, he's sitting on a beach. Does he not know what seaweed is? Which is an amazing source. Okay, he knows what seaweed is. He might not know that it's an amazing source of iodine. But I just wonder, does he not know these basic nutritional things and then just talks on the internet like he knows them? But yeah, just a single sheet of dried nori like you would use in sushi has 1.5 times the amount of iodine that you would need in a single day. With WebMD actually calling it hands down the best source of iodine available, surpassing fish.
My name is DJ Sizzy Weed. I for iodine because I got all the iodine you need to dine on. Oh, 1.5 times the RDA because I don't play on the bottom of the sea all day. Oh, I bring the milligrams and these beats I slam. Oh!
Okay, now DJ Sizzy Weed, I think he might have a future in this rap industry. Anyway, let's move on to the other claims.
Most vegans quit, not because they are weak-willed, but because their body is feeling crap because they are deficient in nutrients.
Well, I have no problem admitting that people who poorly plan going on a vegan diet, might fail due to some health issue or lack of something. It's just not the case to the degree that people believe it is. I've studied this way too much, and yes, from a Faunalytics report on ex-vegans, health concerns were outnumbered by being discontent with vegan food, which includes cravings. Health wasn't at 90%, it was at 30%, with only about 20% saying in particular that they had difficulty managing health, a rate that was the same in vegetarians who quit, who also eat eggs and dairy, of course. Get this, also around 20% was people who had a lack of motivation, exactly what he said wasn't the cause. So he hasn't looked at the data. Other major motivators include social reasons for quitting. I literally wrote an ebook on this stuff on a guide to being a long-term vegan. Level 5 vegan is the name. And in my experience as well, looking through these cases, it's people quitting because they got a new ex-vegan partner. And there's a lot of spiritual decision-making as well as people just diagnosing themselves with things like they might feel tired and think that they have an omega deficiency but never get any blood tests. And also just avoiding doctors in general, which is frustrating. Anyway, we don't need to go too deep into that. But the last point I'll say is that people generally quit most diets and really most lifestyle changes that they attempt anyway, which is unfortunate, whether it's trying to add exercise at the new year. We have like a 90% failure rate for New Year's resolutions. We don't need to dwell. All right, now for a quick break with today's sponsor, Seeds DS01 Daily Symbiotic. This is a prebiotic and a probiotic. And this little guy has 53.6 billion active bacterial cell units in it from 24 different strains, which are scientifically shown to support various areas of health. We're talking gut barrier, gut immunity, digestive health, skin health, heart health, and more. Anyway, since this guy is coming at plants so much, I thought I'd mention the benefits of short-chain fatty acids, which are derived from fiber in your gut. First of all, they help keep the cells of your gut wall tightly together. They help lower the risk of inflammatory bowel diseases, diabetes, insulin resistance, heart disease, and more. So short-chain fatty acid production is super important, and Seed did do a study where they essentially blasted a simulated gut with either alcohol or antibiotics and found that adding Seed helped recover the short-chain fatty acid production of the microbes, which is awesome. And Lindy and I have been taking Seed since 2021, and Lindy loves it so much she never goes anywhere without Seed. So if you would like to try it, of course, you could click the link below and use the code Mike25 for 25% off your first month supply. All right. Anyway, here he is with quite a wild sentence.
And 2, there are so much pesticides and chemicals sprayed on vegetables on top of the natural chemicals like lectins and oxalates that even if you are to eat whole natural vegan food, you're going to harm your gut microbiome.
Okay, he has 3 major claims just crammed together there. First, let's start with those chemicals and toxins in plant foods. Well, to flip the script really quickly, I should say that animal fat is the main source of persistent organic pollutants. We also have pesticide buildup in certain cases in animal products as well. We also have, of course, the pathogen risk. We have the PFAS or forever chemical buildup risk as well, which I've done a whole video on. And just one more point about PFAS, we do have a study showing that vegans were significantly lower for one of the most common types of PFAS in terms of blood levels and heavy metals in certain cases as well. So I'm not sure how giving up plants to eat more animal products is the right play here. But there is some newer data out on this, and so I figured why not take a look at plant pesticides. We have a Consumer Reports investigation from earlier in 2024 that looked at a ton. They looked at nearly 30,000 total fruit and vegetable samples, but they say that only about 8% qualified as high or very high risk. So 92% of the food supply is not, and they mostly tested conventional foods, though they did test organic foods, and they probably used a really conservative threshold because most of these studies do. And yeah, it was in certain cases better to just go for organic blueberries instead of non-organic blueberries. But that brings us to a more practical question: is does the consumption of conventional produce such as fruits and vegetables lead to actually worse outcomes? I mean, if it's toxic and poisonous, it would, wouldn't it? How about mortality? No, fruit and vegetable consumption is consistently associated with lower mortality, even up into higher amounts. This UK study looked at people who ate 7 or more servings of fruit and vegetable per day, and they found that they had a 33% lower risk of all-cause mortality compared to those eating the least, which should be the least amount of toxins. What's going on? And with toxins and chemicals, we'd be concerned about cancer. Well, the study also found that that high vegetable group versus low had a 25% lower risk of cancer mortality. And I should just echo that vegans, the people he's pooping on right here, have a 15% lower risk of cancer from this meta-analysis. And just to nail it home, we have another meta-analysis here looking at fruit and vegetable consumption and mortality. And from this chart, you can just see the toxins leading to massive amounts of deaths. Oh wait, no, the complete opposite. With the more fruit and vegetables consumed, the lower the death risk. And to put this into real life potential deaths from the World Health Organization, 3.9 million deaths worldwide were attributable to inadequate fruit and vegetable consumption in 2017, the year they investigated. Okay, moving on, he also in that sentence says, chemicals on top of lectins and oxalates. And so he's talking about these dangerous toxic anti-nutrients here. But I've covered these before in the past, responding to Dr. Gundry's lectin scare and how they're cooked out with just normal cooking methods. And then in terms of oxalates, I recently covered that and the fear that carnivore diet people have when your body produces the vast majority of oxalates endogenously from your liver as just a byproduct of metabolism and various things you eat. But I could even let him answer that, because in another recent video where he sort of mentions vegans and veganism, he says, I still eat plants despite them having oxalates and lectins because it's kind of like exercise where a little bit of injury makes you stronger.
Plants have anti-nutrients like oxalates, or chemicals like phytic acid and lectins that can be seen as harmful to the human body. So why do I still eat vegetables? I think it's like working out. Technically, working out is destroying the muscle fibers so that they rebuild to be stronger and bigger.
Or maybe vegetables are just healthy for you and oxalates and lectins aren't harming you. It's really just the whole slew of beneficial phytochemicals and antioxidants that are having a positive effect. I find this angle hilarious. You can only eat vegetables if you're training your body to be stronger from damage. But that's what I'll say. I'm happy that he at least frickin' still eats vegetables, which nowadays is, harder to come by, and also just he's eating a fruit in this video. Cool.
If you eat a wide variety of vegetables and you prepare them correctly, yes, they do stress your digestive system in the short run, but the overall effect on your gut and long-term health is a positive one.
But I just think it's hilarious that he's saying plants are good for you, they make you stronger if you're not vegan, but eating more plants on a vegan diet, that's bad. But then he says that all these chemicals and oxalates and really plant foods on a vegan diet are gonna lead to you having a worse microbiome. This is hilarious because A, from a study like this one, vegans have a better microbiome profile in terms of lower potentially pathogenic bacteria and more beneficial bacteria, but also how oxalates are digested by oxalobacter, which sadly, due to the lower consumption of plants and just antibiotic usage in the West, means we have much lower rates of oxalobacter at 30% compared to some Asian countries that are up around 80, 85%. Thankfully, I still have this. I haven't had to take antibiotics pretty much ever. And I'm grateful for that because from this study, oxalobacter was one of the very few bacteria that was actually associated with longevity in the gut. So yeah, I don't think it's bad. So yeah, it's just wild to attack vegan gut health because they eat plants, which are loaded with fiber and these things that help create short chain fatty acids, which are super beneficial for you.
In other words, if you are only eating vegetables, then you're not getting enough nutrients and you're eating too much toxins.
Who says only vegetables? I'm assuming that he's referring to just plants here because obviously vegans can eat things like legumes and grains and fruit, which he's literally eating. That's not technically a vegetable, and nuts and seeds, etc. Even mushrooms, which aren't plants. So yeah, this guy doesn't cite any research. I don't know what he has against vegan diets to such a degree that he seems to repeatedly mention it, but it's clear that his claims are just not correct and in many cases just the direct opposite. Be scared about your microbiome on a vegan diet and you're gonna expose to all of these toxins. He just seems to have a gut level negative feeling about vegans, and so he just says a bunch of stuff. And yeah, there are some valid concerns like B12, but from study after study, all the modern ones are showing that vegans are doing great in that area. But his other nutrient claims are just completely bogus: zinc, iodine, creatine. I don't know why he chose those, because two of those are just completely off base. Anyway, I thought I'd respond because response videos are fun. And of course, if you would like to try Seeds DS01 Daily Symbiotic, you could click the link below and use the code Mike25 for 25% off your first month supply. All right. And let me know down below what you thought about him, if there's any other claims he's made that you want me to respond to, or any other responses to what he said here. You can add those. And of course, feel free to like, subscribe, all the good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.